Made some small recording. Good job. This is a great platform. I'm just going to click that. And hands up if you've used it so far, if you've re-registered or used the diary functionality. I'll have a quick look. Are there any hands yet? No one? Hey, some of you have. Great. So, look, I've got to be honest, the platform is very simple. I'd say it's a great way if you just want to update your email address, your phone numbers, your location, your hive numbers, basic stuff like that. There's a new little function in it called Diary. So if you need some help with your inspection records, you can go in there and load them. So if you do a mite check, if you do a drone uncapping, you inspect for spring, that kind of thing, you can create your own little apiaries and then upload. For anybody who's got more than, 5, 6, maybe more hives, I'm not sure you'll like it. I think you might find it a bit simple and you might want a bigger system. We're probably going to keep it simple for starters, but I'm really keen to get any feedback. If people love it and they want us to make changes, send me an email. I'd be really keen to get your feedback on it. Now, to give you a bit of an idea of how many beekeepers are currently registered in Victoria, I'm happy if you want to chat or just yell it out, but has anyone got any idea of the number of beekeepers that are registered on this platform so far?
6,500.
500.
500.
100,000.
100,000. Yeah, okay. I'll tell you how many. 100. No, only joking. 13,000 beekeepers.
Wow.
Just over, but that is over 100,000 hives. Now, spring is in the air, and I know that swarms and splits happen. So that number fluctuates at this time of year a lot, but that's a really big number. You guys, I need to tell you something that you may not like. You are all cool. Beekeeping has become cool, people. You need to get used to it. You're really hip. We're loved by everybody. If you tell anyone you're a beekeeper, everybody loves you, and everyone seems to be doing it. So we're the in group. 13,000 beekeepers. That's an awful lot. 90% are recreational beekeepers. So anyone who's got between 1 and 10 hives. Most of the commercial beekeepers who have got 50 or more hives, it's only about 400 that fall into that category. So that's just to give you a bit of an idea on how cool you are. So I thought I'd give you a bit of an idea of what our apiary team have been up to. So the apiary inspectors, they are the ones that uphold the Livestock Disease Control Act. They work non-stop with beekeepers all the time, trying to make sure that we, I guess, reduce the risk of spreading diseases like American foul brood in particular. So they tend to work with really big outbreaks, big and small. We're always doing emergency prepared work. There was, and by the way, in case people are taking notes, I'm going to give you this PowerPoint presentation. So you've got, you don't have to take notes. I'm going to send it to you. So Peter, you might be able to send it out to everybody.
Yeah.
But the guys, we did, there was a ship that came down from Queensland a few months ago now, just before the end of or beginning of winter. It had Asian honeybees on it. And so we did a lot of sweep netting down the Melbourne ports in particular, because that ship actually came in there. Thank goodness it was winter. We would have spotted a swarm immediately, but we didn't find any. So the emergency preparedness stuff is always on the lookout. We're always doing port work, you know, and spring is a very busy time of year for us. So the apiary inspectors, because of COVID restrictions, we only work on real compliance jobs at the moment. So we've just come back from the almond pollination operation. We're about to head out to Goulburn Valley, which is very close to Shepparton, but we'll be very safe. And we're going to support some apple and pear orchards. So we're really trying to make sure those big pollination jobs where the risk of transferring disease is quite high when you bring so many hives into one location, that we're right on top of it. So,
Sorry, Ali, I had one question. Who are the apiary officers?
Yeah, great question. So you might have heard the name Joe Reardon. Joe's been an apiary inspector for a very long time. He's our senior apiary officer. Paige McDonald is our new senior apiary officer. And then Nikki Jones is the next in line. She's also a senior apiary officer. So Joe Reardon, and I'll give you their contact telephone numbers as well at the end of my presentation. But Nikki, Joe, Paige, and myself, Ali. We also get a little bit of kind of like office admin support. Currently, we haven't had anybody in that role, but hopefully we'll have somebody pretty soon. So that'll be a good person to join the team as well.
No worries. And I think just one more. I think I've got a question. How do you renew? I assume that's your registration.
Oh, no, that was for your membership.
Was it?
But you are right. And you did say that before, that if you need to register, you can do that through the Bees online platform.
Okay. No worries.
And that's on our AdVic website. Any more questions, Peter?
No, I think that's it.
Perfect. All right. So that's what the team's getting up to. I'm keeping somebody awake. That's good. That's probably your president.
No, it's not me.
I figured the travel made you a bit.
Julian.
We've had a couple of days already.
Sorry, a little bit of a hey, you guys, this time of year is swarming season, and so I did want to remind you about the Apricot Practice. Hands up if you've heard of that before. I'm not sure how many new people you've got. Yay! There's a few hands there, and there's a few that aren't up. So I always talk about the Apricot Practice because if you've heard the saying, happy wife, happy life, and I'm looking at Nola and Barry. Nola's going, yeah, damn straight. Sorry, Barry. Happy neighbours, happy life also goes to the same rule. And we talk about the Apricot Practice being a very similar thing. Think of following these steps as a way that your bees don't become a nuisance to your neighbours. And it's things like making sure that you've got water on the side, making sure that you're on top of your swarmings, do your splits, do what you need to do to make sure they don't swarm, make sure you're registered, make sure you've got the right amount of hives on your size block and they're a certain away from the fence line. If you need to have a bit of a refresher, your local councils uphold the Apricot Practice, but if you just Googled it, you'll be able to get a link to it. They've got it as a free PDF on Google. So the Apricot Practice. And actually, it's a bit of a tough one at the moment because of the COVID restrictions. I know that regional has just been released, but it's probably a good time to talk about swarms. Remember, it is your responsibility as a beekeeper to catch those girls when they second. Do everything you can, but do it in a safe manner. Don't freak your neighbours out. Maybe just let them know. A jar of honey goes a long way. But just if you get stuck and the club gets calls, maybe consider getting businesses involved. Councils have started putting beekeepers on their books, so to speak. So if people are calling in for swarms, councils can call beekeepers to come and collect it during this unfortunate time. Does anyone have any questions about the Apricot Practice? Maybe
only that, Ali, when I had to get a planning permit from my council because I was building an egg shed and whatever and keeping quite a few hives on my property, and the council actually asked me if I was complying by the Apricot Practice, and they actually sent it out to me and made me answer every question. So yeah, that's
great.
Yeah.
Look, I've got to be honest, at this time of year, the team are on the phone a lot with councils, and COVID lockdown has been extremely stressful. I feel very, very lucky. Most of my beekeepers have got a bit of space. They've got a nice backyard where they can have a good number of hives. I've got a big backyard where my dog can run around. But with people being locked down in very small units, people are quite stressed about not being able to get out of the house. So just be very mindful of the mental state of your neighbours. They're hanging on. by a thread at the moment, and most of the calls that we get leading up to this time are mostly people who are just, you know, upset at where bins are put in the driveway, or somebody stood on a flower, you know, little things just send people off. So just be very mindful that your bees might upset some people, but it's a very stressful situation. So maybe, Peter, I'll send you a link and you can email it out to everybody so they've got a copy as well.
Yeah, I just put a message out then that maybe we could email it off. Yeah,
Sure.
so we're on the same page.
So besides the Apricot Practice, my job is to tell you about the Biosecurity Code of Practice. Now, hands up if you've heard about that one. I'm going to eyeball everybody here. Yay! Okay. So the Biosecurity Code of Practice actually got embedded into the Livestock Disease Control Act of Victoria about a year and a half ago now, so middle of June 2019. That's what it looks like, which is really boring. So I thought what I would do is, instead of taking you through all of them, I'm going to take you through my top 8, not the bottom 8, the top 8 are my favorite. And the girls do love me. This is just recently at one of the hives doing a spring inspection. I had to put it in. It's a great photo. So I will start with my favorite, which is number 1, be registered. So make sure you guys are registered, and if only for the reason that Australia is the very last major honey producing country that doesn't have the varroa mite. And by golly, when it gets here, I need to tell you guys, because it'll be action stations. And so if you know a beekeeper that isn't registered, please encourage them. It's free. You know, even if they've got 6 hives, tell them to just register for 5 and it'll be free. We just need to know so that we can communicate with them when all hell breaks loose. That's really the main reason that we need to know who's registered. We don't have time to follow up 13,000 plus beekeepers. We will support you as best as we can, but being registered is a really critical part to making sure we keep bees healthy in Australia. So please encourage all of your friends and your beekeeping buddies to get on and be registered. Now, when I say registered too, make sure you get your brand on your boxes. You can do that however you want. And I've actually seen some pretty creative ways of people whacking their brands on. That's a bit extreme, what you're looking at there. That's ours, but we're trying to encourage people not to nick them. But guys, whack your brand on your box. Have a bit of fun with it. I've seen some really cool artwork recently. Doesn't matter how you put your brand on there, just whack it on there. And the only thing that I'll say about construction, one of the rules that came in is to make sure that the box is constructed the way that the manufacturer would want them to be. So don't go drilling extra holes in here and there. And if the rats start digging a hole out of a corner, block it up. You don't want any extra holes and gaps that could be an avenue for robbing. And hands up if you've heard the word robbing before. Robbing behavior. Yes, I know, sorry. It's look at you. Look, Chris, who's this young Chris that's there? She doesn't look like a Chris to me, but even she's heard of robbing. You guys, yeah, you just want to really make sure your hives are in good condition. Make sure they're constructed well. They're the boring things, to be honest. Okay, here's my favorite one, because this is where I get to talk to you all. Who is aware that if you have chalk brood, you need to call me? Oh my God, can you believe it?
Already done that.
Oh my God. So let's be honest, right? Chalk brood, we all live in Victoria. It's cold, it's miserable. Coming out of winter, what, 90% of our hives have got a tiny bit of chalk brood? Listen, you don't have to call us. You can text me, email me, message, but it'd be really great to understand actually how bad it is in our state. And people don't really tell us about chalk brood. So keep that in mind. We would love to hear from you. Take your time. You've got up to a week, but feel free to just drop a line, give us a buzz, send us an email. Unless you would like advice as to what to do next, then we would happily have a conversation with you regarding that. And chalk brood, European foul brood, and nosema. Has anyone heard of the shits? That's what I call it. They're what we call kind of environmental stresses. You know, your hive very rarely will succumb to them, and it is absolutely something that they can recover from with just good management practices, good food, good sunlight, you know, not in a cold environment. So there's no urgency around reporting those kinds of pests and diseases. But if you see something like American foul brood and you don't know what that snotty, brown, coffee-coloured stuff is, or you see a mite that you have no idea what it is, listen, you guys, even if you can't remember my name, my face, my telephone number, I want you to write this number down and call the Exotic Plant Pest Hotline. Those guys are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call them at any time. Just call that number. They will then get in touch with us anyway. So if all else fails, just remember that number, the Exotic Plant Pest Hotline. Writing it down, Peter, 1-800-084-881.
Got it.
Got it. Look, it's kind of important, not just because we have an opportunity to help you with what it is. I can't tell you at this time of year how busy our phones go. We're on the phone non-stop. As people get into their spring inspections, you know, if they have missed a funny little cell through winter and then left them to just chill out and stay warm through winter, come spring, it might be quite bad. We get a lot of calls, and we're really there for you. We need to help you and get on top of it as fast as possible. So I really encourage you guys to give us a buzz if you ever see anything unusual, right? And speaking of unusual, step number 4, look at this, I'm already halfway through. Step number 4 is probably, it's a funny one, right? So the Biosecurity Code of Practice made a recommendation that every beekeeper, so think about that, every beekeeper in Victoria, that's over 13,000 beekeepers, would conduct a sugar shake, an alcohol wash, or a drone uncapping twice per year. You guys are like, this whole club is like an apiary team on steroids. Because if you think about it, no matter where you are, if you're looking for a varroa mite, that's like having, 13,000 of me out in the field doing a test every year. So I really encourage you guys to do these tests. But I want to let you know that in the Victorian legislation, they changed it a little bit. Because by the time we got it into legislation in the middle of 2019, we realised the research that was coming back was saying things like alcohol washes are by far the best method to find mites. The only problem is, can you guess?
Kills the bees.
Yeah, it kills the bees. Now, hands up if you're able to find your queen every single time you do an inspection. Yeah, I'm hearing you. No way, right? Like, and if you were to kill your queen, I think that's probably worse than actually having you do the test, because right now we are the only country that doesn't have varroa here, the biggest honey producing country. We're the last one. So what we promote and in our legislation is that we want Victorian beekeepers to do the drone uncapping. That's with the fork, and it doesn't have to be flash. You could actually use a fork. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can. But to do a drone uncapping, now I'm sorry, boys, but varroa loves to be on the drones because you take a little bit longer to develop. No, right? They love it in there. And so when you do put the fork in and drag those the boys out really slowly, they're beautiful pearly white, and you will immediately see any kind of bugs running around on them. And they actually kind of scurry around. You will immediately see it. What we want you to then do on top of that is a sugar shake. And you've probably heard that before. So for me today, I'm going to ask you all to eat a bucket of ice cream, so that you can start carrying around a white bucket of water every time you do an inspection. You only really need to do it coming out of spring, and please don't do it yet. It's too cold for the girls. Maybe wait a month or two before you do this test. So now would be a really good time to get all your gear together. Grab some icing sugar. I want it to be pure icing sugar. None of that mixture stuff. You don't want like a, what's it called? Corn flour or anything mixed into it. It has to be pure icing sugar. Now, if you're a little bit like me and, icing sugar can be a bit clumpy, stick it in a blender, make it all nice and soft so that when you go to use it, that you're not actually, hitting the girls with big clumps of icing sugar. A little tip might be that when the bees go into the container, put the lid on, push the sugar through the top. That'll break up the clumps as well if you don't have a blender or you don't have a mallet. But I really encourage you to do this test in about a month or so. And it doesn't have to be posh equipment. At the beginning of the year, we sent out an email to pretty much any of the bee retail outlets that we knew of, and we asked them to start to supply sugar shake containers. So if you don't want to make one, just try Googling one of your local shops. I bet they've already got them in store. You'll have to go buy your own icing sugar. You'll have to eat your own ice cream because you need a bucket. Yogurt works well too. I am a little bit addicted to the Greek yogurt at the moment that comes in like a 4 or 5 litre container. But to carry out a little container while you do your inspections, put a bit of water in it. And if you wear glasses, make sure you're wearing your glasses because the sugar will dissolve in the water and you will immediately see anything floating on top. If there's a mite there, it'll be scurrying on the top. Might see a little wing or two every now and then as well. Don't be alarmed. But it's a really great way to see if there is anything in it. Now, does anyone have questions about sugar shakes in particular?
Can I just pipe in there,
Yeah.
and just stress that, as our members know, that we have the visitor beekeeper days periodically throughout the season. So hopefully now that the regional Victoria has opened up, one of the things that we can do in the visitor beekeeper is demonstrate the sugar shake and the drone uncapping to anybody that's not familiar with it. So that would be a good. So if you're not familiar with those things, come and visit one of the beekeepers on those days.
That sounds awesome. Look, 2 tips for you. I know Varroa destructor is not here. In fact, Queensland was just pardoned, so to speak. There's no Varroa jacobsoni either. Everybody, tells us it's a matter of time. Not on my watch. Oh, not on any of our watch. I don't want to be the one that's known for, having it here on my watch, but we will do everything in our power to make sure that once it gets here, that we eradicate it really fast. And I think the industry knows this, and that's why they put this into its legislation, that you start to do this now, because if we can find it the second it gets here and we can eradicate it, that is our best line of defense. We're almost, the apiary team are almost the last line because there's federal, there's all these other teams that before it even gets here, do all their clearing jobs and make sure that there's no pests or diseases on planes and ships and stuff. By the time it hits us, we need all of you to be doing this test randomly, throughout the year, not in winter, but just, one towards the end of the year, maybe one coming out in February, March, before you're sort of getting ready to pack down for winter. If you can find something now, we're going to get on top of this straight away. So it's about building a behavior, and adults need that. And just think you've got a bit of time. You can practice this. Don't do it every single inspection. Sugar's great, but you do give the girls a little bit of concussion. So just, it should be called a roll, not a shake. So I encourage you to get all your equipment now, start eating your ice cream. Don't worry about through winter, and then start performing it in about a month or 2. 4 months gap between examinations seems a bit long. Look, true, but winter because of winter, the only ships that we inspect at the moment are the ones that come through from New Zealand. And the rest of the world is in, you know, by the time those swarms get to us, it's kind of nice to be so far away from the rest of the world. So we sort of have a bit of confidence that they're not going to get to us through winter. Yeah, that's kind of how we've been going so far. So fingers crossed, and keep up the good work, everyone. Practice your sugar shakes. Now, I don't want to lose Jackie. She's hanging in there. Hang in there, Jackie. All right, number 5, record keeping. Now, I get asked a lot, what should I keep records on? What are records? What do I keep? Basic stuff. Think about what you saw, what you did. Did you see small hive beetle? Did you set your trap? What was the date? What was the weather like? Just basic stuff, you guys. Don't have to go too crazy. Did you move your hives? You know, did I get a new queen? Did I catch a swarm? I've seen lots and lots of great record keeping, and I've seen some pretty poor stuff. And think of it a little bit like COVID. COVID trace back is exactly the reason why you keep your records. You want to trace back why I got something, what changed, what happened, what do I need to check in that hive, because that's where it might have come from. So think about your record keeping like a disease checklist. It's like a way that you can track what happened, so you can go back and get on top of it really fast. And you can go crazy, right? You can take photos. I've seen lots of people write on the tops of hives. I've got to be honest, I actually really like that idea, because by the time you've done 3 hives, often you forget, did I see the queen? Did I see eggs? Where was that small hive beetle? Did I set a trap? Did I do the sugar shake on that one? So sometimes you can forget. You can take a photo of the lid and go back afterwards and fill it out in your, you know, your app, this Excel spreadsheet if you're a bit of a dork like me. You know, keep your records however you want. And I did say a little bit about the online platform. If you kind of want some help, in the diary function, you can do new inspection, and it just gives you the basic list. And you could, as you fill it out, you'll realize you're actually doing all these things and you didn't even know it. So check that out if you want a little bit of a hand to improve your record keeping skills. The only thing that I'll say about record keeping is tell your best friend where you keep your records. Because for the same reason that you've got that beekeeper assistance program, if anything happened to you, how will we know, or the person that's coming in, where your bees are, you know, what stage you're at, what are they going to expect to see? You kind of want to leave a bit of help for that person. Just tell them where you keep them. Does that sound like a smart thing?
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Look, he keeps his records on a chalkboard. Oh, have you got me, guys?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
My internet just said that I was going funny then. My dad keeps his records on a chalkboard in his shed. It's some kind of hieroglyphic-y, I don't know, you know, symbols that I'm supposed to know what they mean. So I've asked him, can you tell me so that when, you know, anything happens to your dad, like, you know, I know what's going on. And he actually said, that's a really good point, you know, like I know what it is. It's kind of shorthand for me, but it'd be a really good idea if you just let one person, your bestest friend in the whole world, know where you keep your records and what it means. All right. Any questions about record keeping? Oh, I missed a question about sugar shakes, and it's a good one that you could keep records on. Michelle, don't sugar shake every hive. Just sugar shake one hive in a load. So if you have 3 hives in your backyard, just do one. You don't want to cover them all in sugar. If one of them gets something, you know, or a mite, they're probably all going to be affected in some way. I know that probably sounds bad, but you don't want to do all of them, just one. If you've got 10 hives, still do one. But if you've got 3 hives on one property and you actually keep 1 hive on a mate's place down the road, maybe do that one and this one because it's location based. Does that make sense? I hope I've answered that question for you. Yeah, great. I'm getting a few nods there. All right. Thank you. Oh, hey, 6, we're up to 6. Yay. Okay, this is my all-time favorite. Oh my God. Now, guess what? The bulk course is free. Still, I'm so excited by this. So, has anyone heard of the bulk course, the Biosecurity Online Training course? Has anyone done it? Oh, there's a few. So, you'd be happy to know it's valid for 3 years and we just reviewed it and there are no new pests or diseases that have been loaded into the system. There are a few new sexy photos, but nothing regarding information. So, if you haven't done it in 3 years, I highly recommend get onto it now. Remember that you can go back in and out of this course at any time. So don't feel overwhelmed by the information. If you kind of want a refresher on all the different pests and diseases that are out there, just go back in and do one module, you know, go and have tea, you know, read the books to the kids or something. And maybe in a couple of days' time, after you finish Googling, you know, what was that again? Go back and do another module and know that you can keep going back in and out of that. That's one of my favorite things about this course. So even if you did it 2 years ago, you can go back in, log back in, and you know the course will be there. So hopefully you find it worthwhile and you still learn a lot. Now I've been told they're going to keep it probably till the middle of this year free, and you actually don't have to be a beekeeper to do the course. So I've been telling everybody about it. I think it's really great to get awareness of different pests and diseases that bees get out there. So get onto it, everyone, you know, get your friends onto it. And I know that all you guys are on Zoom, so you're kind of internet savvy. But if you've got a member of the club who kind of hates doing it that way, send me an email because I've printed it out and I've got a test and you can conduct the test at home. Just read through the material, send it back to me. I've got my red pen and I'll mark it and make sure I put a smiley face on it that you passed. And I'll talk to you if you get any questions wrong. And then I'll send it off to Plant Health Australia for you so that you get your certificate. But let me know. I'm really happy to help somebody do it because I can't do it with you in person at the moment. So just let me know if you want me to post it out to you. Sound good?
Yes,
All right.
we go.
We're moving through this. Guess what? There's only 2 to go. Does anyone need to go to the toilet? No? Okay, good. Good to see we've got some bladder control. All right.
Oh, yes, but for how long?
Hey?
But for how long?
Oh, give me another 15 minutes. What do you reckon?
I reckon that's fine.
All right. So,
Close spec, Andrew.
one of the next things that I want to talk to you guys about is brood inspections. And I want you to start really looking at your brood. Now, you might have heard us saying this before, but I want you to know what good brood looks like. Oh, that's not good brood.
Brood.
Whoops, but isn't that a gorgeous honey frame?
Yeah.
I had to share it. Okay, this is good brood. So I want you to get used to what does good brood look like. You always see a little bit of honey around the outside, lots of pollen coming in and a beautiful pattern. I want you to know the difference when you see something that doesn't look quite right. And I've got to be honest, I hope you never, ever see a frame like this. I don't know if you can kind of tell, but that looks quite nice. You can sort of make out that all those brood are all those cells kind of erased. And then when you look at this photo, you'll see that way more than 90%, it looks quite flat and almost sunken.
There's no honey.
No, there's no honey in that baby either. That's a pretty sick hive, let me tell you. So when I say a thorough brood inspection, I want you to shake all the bees off the frame. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people do brood inspections, but there's actually a little clump of these cells hidden under bees. So I want you to start looking for any little cells that seem sunken, a bit darker in colour. And I'm sorry to say, I want you to start carrying around matches. Now, I've never been a smoker, but I can't tell you how many matches. I've got boxes. I pick them up everywhere. Start carrying them around in your pockets, because when you need a stick, when you see that one cell and you want to put a stick in it, you won't be able to find it. So I want you to start carrying around a box of matches with you. And when you see, I hope that's a good photo, you can kind of tell that in that nice brood pattern, there are two little cells that look a little bit flat. They're sunken in, they're dark, and I want you to get that match out, and I want you to really lightly break the top and stick it in and swirl it around. And if it comes out like that, like a big kind of snotty, gross coffee thing, and it doesn't break off very fast, I want you to call me. I want you to call anybody. You can call people in your club, but call us as soon as possible. And I want you to put that match back into that cell, put that frame back in the hive and close the lid up. You want to not upset them too much when you see a cell like that. I don't think you're going to see many. Has anyone had American foul brood in their hive? There might be a few of you in here. It is quite common. Not yet? Wow, that's great. No one's shaking their head. Wow, that's awesome. That's such good news. Guys, I need to tell you, American foul brood is endemic. It is everywhere. We have a lot of feral colonies out there that get away through swarming season that we can't control. We can't check for pests and diseases. And so our good hives that we keep nice and strong go out and rob some sick, weak hives. And so as you come out of winter, shake those bees off those brood frames and really look at it. Now, two things I want you to remember. White is good, brown is bad. If you ever put a match in and it comes out white, you just killed a baby. Don't worry about it. They'll clean it up. Don't feel bad. You've practiced, right? White is good. Even if it has a little bit of yellow in it, that's normal. But if you see anything that comes out kind of brown, call us, okay? And we're going to walk you through it. So that's what I want you to start doing. Now, that email address at the bottom there, because we're in the field an awful lot and there's only the 4 of us, if you call us and can't get hold of anybody, just write to that email address. We all man the single inbox, and so we will all get it. There will always be somebody in the office and we will help you straight away. So don't panic. Don't, have a bit of hope, and know we're going to be there for you if you ever do this, as long as you start carrying around matches. So first, I'm going to make you fat by eating all the ice cream so you can carry around a bucket with water in it. And now I'm going to make you steal matches left, right, and center, but carry them around. How do you feel about that so far? All right, okay. Barry's okay with that. All right. And the reason that we're going to carry around matches is mostly because you guys, you probably won't know you've got American foul brood until it's the very end, until it's already too late. So there's something that I'm going to encourage you to do, and that is to conduct a honey culture test. Has anyone done that before? Put your hand up if you've done a honey culture test. Yeah. You're like, you give away honey to somebody else to test? That sounds crazy. Besides your family and your friends, yes, I want you to do a honey culture test. I will tell you though, you don't have to do this test. This is only for people who have 50 or more hives. But I'm going to encourage you all to do it for a couple of reasons. It's kind of like worming your cat or your dog. They don't have worms, but we do it. You pay $50, $90 for a bag of, worming tablets for our cat or dog because we want to know that they stay healthy. This test is a way to have confidence that your girls are doing really well and there's nothing hidden in there. And if you're somebody who shares some of your equipment, like I've got a best friend down the road who we started beekeeping around the same time. We invested in a honey extraction unit at the same time. We thought we'd just get one. I want to know that my girls don't have any spores in it that might get his girls sick. So I just do the test, mostly because I'm the biosecurity officer, and that would be horrible if I didn't, but also because I can say, hey, Justin, you know, my results came back negative, I'm all good. And he's got confidence that I'm not bringing any disease into his apiary. Now, the one thing I want you guys to know about this test, or American foul brood spores, and the reason I talk about it is spores are only found in the wax and the honey. So if you're cleaning your hands, if you're cleaning your hive tool, if you're washing your suit, I can see a few of you need to wash your suit. It's okay to throw it in the washing machine. You won't get into trouble. If there's no wax or propolis or honey on your clothes, you can't transfer the American foul brood spores. It's really easy. So don't freak out too much. You do not need chemicals to keep your hands and your tools clean. Does that make sense? I don't want to freak anyone out. You don't need anything special. But a honey culture test, you can just take it off one frame. You can just scratch it. 100 mils is not that much really to do a test. And you could do it before you start extracting. Write to Gribbles. I recommend that you send them an email. Sometimes their phone lines are a bit busy. So just send them an email. If you request a honey culture test kit, they'll actually post it out for you for free. Then send it back when you get it. So it's good to just have it. I don't expect you to do this test probably, I guess what, we're probably going to get maybe a honey flow before December, if we're lucky, fingers crossed. Maybe even January, February. So you might only do these once a year, but think about it as an early warning system, which I've written there, just of the health of your hive. Does that make sense? I really want to open it up to questions because I don't want to upset anybody about American foul brood, but not a lot of people talk about it. It is out there, and that's a really great way that you can have confidence that your girls are doing really well, because you probably won't be able to see it initially. Does anyone have any questions about it?
Do you combine bits of honey from bits of hives, or do you just do one hive?
That's a really good question, and I'm sorry, I don't know who said that, but great
Julian,
question.
Michelle.
Great question, you guys. So yes, you'd want to take a tiny bit out of all of the hives you've got in that location. That's what we call a composite sample. So you might just get a teaspoon or a soup spoon or something, run it along a frame, and then filter it into a container so you can mix it, or just do it when you do a big extraction at the end. But a little bit of everything is a really great way to have confidence in all of them. So the commercial beekeepers who have got let's say a trailer load. So normally they kind of do it, if that's what your ute can carry, might have 50 hives, or a truck that can take 100, then what they would do is say, that's my apiary, and they'll take an extraction of that. But they might have 50 there, 50 there, and 50 there. So they might only do 3 tests. But when it comes back, they'll know exactly which hives to go back in and check. So for me at home, I've got 3 here. I'll take a little bit from my 3. It means that it'll be one of those hives if it comes back positive. Don't do it one hive, one hive, one hive. It's too expensive, and I think that's overkill. I think you'll probably find that if one hive is sick, you'll pick it up anyway. So just take a composite load of all of your apiaries. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, great. Does anyone have any other? That was a really great question. I should have said that. So thank you for picking that up.
No, sorry, go on. That's fine.
Oh, sorry. Could you say that again?
Oh, sorry, Ali. I thought somebody else was asking a question, but it's Peter again. No, I was just going to comment that I can't stress enough to call the apiary officer, because I used to do cutouts. I used to catch a lot of swarms and things, and one day I did get a suspicious hive, and and I got the gooey cells, and I can tell you it makes you feel really sick. But I can't stress enough to call the apiary officers, because I spoke to Joe at the time, and he was just so calming and methodical, and yeah, they put you at ease, and yeah, I can't stress it enough. Yeah.
Ali, just a question. If the test, say I've got 3 hives and I have a composite sample, it comes back positive. Well, what's the next step then? Do you then examine each hive to see if you can find any sign? But I know that you can have AFB spores and not necessarily any obvious signs in the hive. So
Yeah, that's true, Bron. Yep, that's 100% true. So what we would do initially is look at the hives. You would do a really thorough inspection. We sometimes have the ability to come out and help with those inspections as well. Because we don't have a lot, because we don't see it all the time, I can actually smell it now before I see it. That's how much I've seen it, if that makes sense. So my concept of it, I feel like it's everywhere, but actually it kind of isn't, because if you think about Victoria as a whole, where I go, it's a little bit of everywhere, and it's not everywhere, if that makes sense. So what you would do as an initial first step is do a really thorough inspection. Look for any cell that's sunken. Sometimes it's one cell, but if your honey comes back with a positive one, all we do is reduce the entrance a little and make sure that it doesn't become robbable. Because besides us as beekeepers, having dirty fingers and hands, and maybe having honey all over our tool and going to the next hive, so we cross-contaminate or transfer those spores from hive to hive. Robbing behavior is the very top way to spread it. And so what you want to do is make sure that your hive is really nice and strong. You'll probably find it's got weak by then. And so if you reduce the entrance, they can fight off any other robber bees coming and taking those spores away. And at that point, depending on the situation, if you can't find a cell, we try to do another look, and that's where we'll come out and help you. Or you find the cell, and then you know exactly what hive it is. And unfortunately, what happens is you have to euthanize that hive. So you wait until the night when all the workers are back, everybody's back in snuggled nicely. We would use about a cup of petrol, unleaded petrol, knocks them out really fast. And then we would encourage burning of those frames. And then whether or not you want to keep the boxes and the lids and the queen excluders and the bases and irradiate them, so that will really get rid of any spores left, or you can just destroy them. Does that make sense? Yeah. So robbing behavior is the fastest way. So if you've ever got a suspicious hive and you don't know what it is, just keep that entrance a little bit reduced so that the amount of traffic, that you won't get any robber bees coming in, then you know you can't spread it.
Yeah, we've got a good question from Jackie.
Yeah. So there's lots of talk around can we have like an AFB map? Because it's a little bit like COVID. When you get American foulbrood, by the time you find it, you can't trace back where it came from. And so we just blanket Victoria saying that we've got AFB everywhere. It's very hard to know. The biggest risks are for commercial beekeepers because they all bring their hives in, lots of hives into such a small area. So the ability to rob is very, heaps easier. So those areas, because they move around the countryside so much, it's really hard to know where it came from. We don't send alerts out, but what we do encourage is for example, if I had talked to Peter, we'd say, Peter, do you know any of your neighbours have got bees? Do you want to just let them know that you've experienced this? Make them go and do an inspection on their hive. And they normally go, yep, no problem. And so more and more we're seeing that a beekeeper will actually make that connection with their friends and colleagues around them. We will not disclose that information because of privacy. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. And Michelle's got a interesting question as well, I think.
I don't know what that word is.
Ivermectin.
I've never heard
It's
that.
Julian, not Michelle.
Oh, Michelle, sorry. Julian's being funny, I think.
What does that mean?
Ivermectin's one of those really vague sort of cures for coronavirus.
Oh,
Sorry,
I've not heard it.
it's a dodgy question.
Animal worm, they use it on
An animal.
horses.
Yeah, apparently it's big in South America, I think.
It's a anti-parasitic
Yeah.
dosing thing
Yeah.
for animals.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I bring up American foul brood because it's really horrible when you get it. Like if you get it and you've got confirmation, then you have to euthanize your girls. There's no cure. There's cures for everything else, but no one's found a cure for it. And unfortunately, with so many feral colonies out there, it's really hard. And we as beekeepers try to keep really strong, healthy hives. And then our girls go and rob out a weak hive. And so unless we can get on top of it really, really fast, we can reduce that robbing behavior. And if everyone keeps really nice, strong hives, then they won't be robbable. So that's why we always encourage everyone to just really keep your eye, just stand to the side of your hive and watch the traffic. Is it busy? You know, maybe there's something wrong. Think about reducing the entrance. So just watch the amount of bees coming in and out and keep the traffic. Look for those bees that dangle their legs. They're like stealth. They're like, and they sometimes hang out the back. That's a robbing type of behavior. So keep your eye on that and just reduce the entrance and allow the girls to fight them off so they don't come in. But please don't be alarmed by it, but it's a really good idea to start carrying around matches and just start digging them into cells. It's good practice. The only tip that I'll say is, and I've seen it before, if you do use a matchstick or a stick in the hive and it does come out gooey, make sure you don't throw that on the ground. Pick it up, put it either in your bucket or your smoker, although I really would prefer you just to stick it back in the frame and put it back in the hive. That way you'll know exactly where that suspicious cell was. It's a good habit to get into. And white is good and brown is bad. All right. How am I doing for time? Oops, toilet break. Better hurry. Last slide. How's that sound? I did talk a little bit about this, and you might have heard me say barrier systems or an apiary. I want you guys to think about this, not so much because you might only have a handful of hives, but think about creating units. So it could be done through colors. Let's say you've got two hives. Color one color, put the other one, or hive number one, hive number two, and start thinking about making them a system where nothing will cross over. Don't steal brood frames from one hive and put them in the other. Don't steal that queen excluder and put it in the other. Don't have that honey box and put it on top when you need to go big. It's very hard, but you need to be organized. That's hard for people who aren't organized. But to get a really good barrier system in place where you're thinking about the biosecurity practices you put in place, think about how you don't cross-contaminate your gear. I've seen some great tips. I've seen colors as an obvious one. I've seen cattle tags recently. So people have screwed cattle tags in, and cattle tag green or number one, all of that stuff stays with it. Cattle tags number two, or just painting on boxes. It means that when you take that honey super off and put it away for the winter and you bring it back in spring, it goes onto the exact same hive you had before. That way, you're starting to build a really tight barrier against spreading pests and diseases. So one hive shouldn't get something that one hive's got, if that makes sense. So think about how you do that and tell everybody your rules. So when you come to my house and do an inspection with me, you're going to use my equipment, not your own. I've even got a spare suit for you. You know, when you come to my house, I want you to do this, this, and this. When you come to my house, I keep my queen excluders because I run with them, in the top of the lid, so that I never take the queen excluder away from that hive. That way I know it's always belongs to that group. So there's lots of little tips and tricks that you might have so that you stop introducing equipment from one hive to another. Does that make sense to everybody? Has anyone got any kind of cool tips that they use for barrier systems? Like, does anyone else have other ideas that they've got set up to try to mitigate that crossover?
I don't have any hives yet, but I was planning to name all of my hives. So like each individual one has like its own name.
I love that. Is it going to be like a boat? Will they be all girls' names or given boys' names?
I was thinking women from history, yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's so good. What a great idea. And maybe write them on those boxes or
Yeah, I was going to write it on the box as well.
So you'll be like, geez, Julie's producing well today.
Yeah, that kind of thing, yeah.
Brian, you could have Beatrice Potter.
Oh, I love Beatrice Potter. That's a great idea. Good suggestion.
Does anyone else have any ideas?
I have, I've collected quite a lot of hive tools now. So when I go to each of my apiaries, so if there's 10 hives, I bring 10 hive tools, and I use one hive tool for each hive. I might be going over the top a bit, but it's
not even I've got that many hive tools. That's awesome. But that's
yeah, I mean, I don't know, it might be over the top, but I mean, one hive tool, if you're doing 10 hives in an apiary, you wouldn't, I don't know, what do commercial beekeepers do? What do the big guys do?
I've seen so at a site they might rock up and there's a little shed, and in the shed is the equipment that they use for that apiary. So they put it back into the shed before they go to the other site. So I've seen that before. I've seen them color code. So like all the green dipped hive tools, they also stand out in the grass.
Good idea, yeah.
Yellow, orange, red, people. Don't do green. That works really well. I stole my dad's paint scraper. So I just, I carry around a galvanized bucket with a little bit of water, like not much. I put a bit of detergent in it, and then I put my hive tool and my dad's paint scraper in it, put it on an angle, and my smoker sits on top of it, doesn't touch the water. So I've got that, and then I've got my sugar bucket normally, and I go out. But that means that I can scratch off any of the propolis or honey and wash my hands in the bucket before I go to the next one. So that's like an old beekeeper taught me that, and I've really liked that way. That's worked for me. What else?
Yeah, I used to carry around the bucket with the soap and water, but I sort of got tired of that after a while, so that's why I sort of disposable gloves I use too. So I don't particularly like the beekeeping gloves that can get all crusted up with honey and wax. Yeah.
Anybody else got some other ideas? I'm wrapping up. This is your time to talk.
Oh, yeah.
No?
Actually, I was just going to ask you, Ali, quickly what the audit was from the almond pollination as far as AFB this year.
So not very much, but there was a tiny bit.
Not much. That's good. Yeah.
We're pretty lucky in the sense that everybody wants strong hives. Beekeepers that go to pollination, they actually get paid like for frames of bees. So if you were to open a lid, they kind of look in and go, it's an 8-frame box, there's 8 frames of bees, because it's like overflowing and packed. So they always take really strong hives. So it means that they've gone through their hives, taken out anything that was a bit suspicious, and they're only taking strong stuff. You know how we were talking about honey culture test results before? So there's 3 results. You get a +1, +2, or +3. And what it is, it's a spore count. And I'll just kind of explain it in my layman's ways. What Gribbles will do is they put a little bit of the honey in a petri dish and they grow it, and the spores of AFB grow or don't grow. And depending on how many live spores there are, It's depending on how bad it is. So do you get the 1, 2, or 3? Now, 3 is really bad, and 2 is even getting up there, but 1 is a really early sign. And so you can still go to almonds, you can still have your hive as long as it isn't robbable. So it has to be a really nice, strong hive. And so they inspect them all before they bring them in, and they're only bringing nice, strong hives. And so by the time we get there, and we get there really early, because our concept really is that if we can get in there and just find those hives that maybe got missed, get them out straight away, then the flowers come, they can be replaced. The orchard wins, beekeepers win, because it might have been a little bit cold still. So there's no risk of that spread. So we get there pretty early, but all in all, our work is less and less every year, which is a really great sign. In fact, this year we went out and introduced ourselves to really small almond orchards instead of the big ones, and taught them about the importance of bees and what to expect and how they can improve their pollination. And now we're going up to the pear and apple orchards in Shepparton and Tattoo, around that area, to talk to them about the same thing, because you guys, you know how cool we are now being beekeepers. More and more they're starting to get involved, and so we're finding that there's this cohort of beekeepers who've got maybe 10 or 20 hives and are starting to go to pollination. So there's different things that you have to do, in particular packing down to get out of winter and have those girls firing at all cylinders. There's things that you need to think about doing. So we start to working with a few more of those kind of smaller semi-commercial beekeepers now. So it's good. It's a good story. That's our number. So call us, save me in your phone, everybody. I'm serious about that. That's that centralized email address I was telling you about. So if you can't get hold of us, please email us. There is always someone there. And if all else fails, call that exotic plant pest hotline. Who was writing that down before? Stan, maybe? Write that number down. So if you can't get us, make sure you call that number. They'll help you and they'll put you in touch with us anyway. But that's it. I could talk about it all night, so you better wrap me up. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you again, Ellie.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
No worries.
It's always
Can I
good to see you.
share it so that I can see your faces again? I'll stop sharing.
Yeah.
That's
Excellent.
better.
Yeah.
You're still all there. No one fell asleep.
Yeah.
Hey. Good work.
Well, if everybody could just put their hands together again for Ali. Thank you.